With a population of over 3.1 million people, Durban is the third largest city in South Africa. In recent years, Durban has made numerous most dangerous cities in the world lists, but we are staying in Umhlanga, an oceanside suburb that is number one on a different list, the best places in Durban to stay. But I'm going to pause this and go back to explain how we ended up here.
Hello, Governor.
Hello. While you watch our good boy enjoying this sunset, I'll try to quickly give you the rundown. We were originally planning a South Pacific trip for this spring, but my mother, who is originally from South Africa, suggested we do a family trip back home. Now, South Africa has become exponentially more dangerous over the past 15-ish years, and Durban has made numerous most dangerous cities list, so this wasn't an easy decision. But we have been to plenty of dangerous cities within the US like New York, Baltimore, Chicago, and our favorite city, Philadelphia. So we did our research on what places to avoid and what precautions we needed to take, and then hopped on a Virgin Atlantic flight heading to London. Paul ended up feeling sick from either the airplane food or possibly from motion sickness, so our 10-hour layover turned into Paul getting a trendy hotel by the airport, while my family and I took the tube into London. We went to Piccadilly Circus, which kind of seemed like Times Square but older. We checked out a few London staples like Costa Coffee and Tesco's. We also got a Greggs sausage roll. I don't know why there's so much hype around these. They weren't that good. It's like a Vienna sausage in a dense, slightly flaky croissant. We decided to head back to interrupt Paul's relaxing day and watch the planes fly in. We caught a nice sunset before going back to Heathrow to board our flight to Johannesburg. Once in Joburg, we went through customs and transferred over to South African Air for a short 50-minute flight to our final destination. Huge shout out to South African Air. Our flight was $80 round trip and we had ample legroom and they even fed us. Our lunches came in very adorable boxes with a chicken sandwich and a full-size Kit Kat. But the sandwiches had onions on them, so Paul opted for just dessert. As the plane filled with the Roma of onions, we got our first glimpse of Durban. We touched down at King Shaka Airport just north of Durban, and our travel day was almost over. Our last step on our 35-hour travel day was to pick up our right-hand drive VW T-Cross rental car. It's just a smaller version of the Tiguan. And then we were off to figure out how to drive on the wrong side of the road and to explore the city, and maybe see how dangerous it is to drive a VW in this country. VWs are ranked as the second most stolen vehicle in the country, just behind Toyotas. Spoiler alert, no one messed with a car, but one of the precautions we read about was when you are at a light, leave enough space between you and the car in front of you to ensure an escape route if you see someone trying to hijack your vehicle. Also check your mirrors and really pay attention to your surroundings. Car theft is one of the major problems in this country. But this video is not going to be focused on the problems South Africa might have, as I'm not an expert on that topic. Rather, I want to show off all the cool things we saw and our experiences as an American couple in a foreign country. And with that, I want to show you Umhlanga Arch. Here's the satellite view to give some orientation to the area. The arch is right off the main road going up to the ridge in Umhlanga, and anytime we drove down to the beach or to the motorway, we drove right past this iconic building. We didn't know much about it, but we were dying to go explore it, so we went out to walk a quarter-mile down to it, and after getting briefly lost in an office park, we found the entrance where the escalators appeared to be broken.
Escalator broken? We can go up there? Yeah. Okay. Oh! That's so
Our sincere apologies to the fellow Americans out there for solidifying the stereotype. But the arch partially consists of a Hilton garden, a BMW dealership that we didn't explore, an apartment complex that boasts cheaper prices than we expected, I'll go over that in a minute. And then there is a courtyard with various shops and restaurants overlooking the arch. There is also a parking garage, and the parking is free. The arch officially opened in 2020, with the first residents moving into the apartments in September of the same year, so everything is still very new. So new, we actually found a section of the arch that hasn't been finished yet.
Just
Doors closing.
On the far end of the Baron restaurant, there is a great view overlooking Umhlanga and the Indian Ocean. We weren't ready for dinner, so we opted for drinks at the Legacy Yard where they had some live music playing. Even South Africa loves Post Malone. The Legacy Yard has a nice rooftop deck with panoramic views, and it's completely free. The drinks were around $2 each, though. Let's quickly check out the Arch Apartments. I found the official website of the Arch complex, and it says the starting price of a loft apartment is 2.5 million rand, which is about $131,000. The penthouses convert to about $447,000. The apartments are in the building behind the arch, and I'm assuming they probably have the best views in the whole city. I'm not fully convinced about the prices, though. We saw other luxury homes in the area that were selling for double or triple the price of the penthouse. On our way out, we passed by a bank with a unique logo and then got redemption on the escalators. We checked out the coolest building in Umhlanga, so now we are heading into Durban to go to the coolest restaurant. Durban is not only known for the stellar beaches, but it also has a popular revolving restaurant. But first, some of our friends were curious on driving through the city. Roma Revolving Restaurant is one of only 31 revolving restaurants in the world, and the only one in the Southern Hemisphere according to their website. It's located in downtown Durban right near City Hall. which locals had warned us of protest and looting in downtown, but the streets were pretty empty. We found parking just past the building and headed inside to ride the elevator all the way up to the 32nd floor. We entered into the center of the restaurant where we were greeted by so much red. Red drapes, red carpet, red furniture. Roma specializes in Italian cuisine and opened up back in 1972, so some of the decor makes sense. It also seems like they haven't updated much since opening. We were the first customers in the restaurant, so we explored a little before being brought to our table on the city side. Of course, we had asked to be seated on the harbor side, but the waiter informed us that we will be over there in about an hour. We thought we were going to be done eating by then. Oh, how wrong we were. I would not recommend coming here if you are on any kind of time crunch, as the entire experience took about 2 hours. But we were in no hurry, so we just enjoyed the views as our waiter brought us some bread. Every time we had bread in South Africa, we were so surprised. It tastes way better than the bread in the States. I'm not sure what they do differently, but it just tastes softer and more pillowy. The breadsticks, on the other hand, well, they taste about the same as how they look. Now, I should say our review of this restaurant might be a bit picky, but Roma touts themselves as fine cuisine, but in reality, it's more of a themed restaurant. The amazing views are what really bring people to the restaurant. I'll get into the food now. I took some pictures of the menu. The food was a bit more expensive than most restaurants, but it's still only 10 to 20 US dollars per person. If you would like to pause the video and do the math, the exchange rate is about 19 to 1. For my appetizer, I tried the seafood bisque, and it was decent enough, but a bit bland. And then we all ordered our entrees, and things got a little weird. Paul ordered the king prawns, but asked that they remove the shell before serving. But the owner came to the table afterwards and told us that it wouldn't taste good if they are de-shelled and that you can actually eat the shell. Then he pulled Paul's napkin off the table and fully leaned over Paul to put it in his lap. I'm sure he meant well, it was just a weird interaction. I love pasta, so I ordered tagliatelle Alfredo and it was pretty good. Here's Paul's shrimp. The plating on this dish is great, but Paul says it didn't have much seasoning once he de-shelled them. Paul is way too picky to eat the shell. And Mom got the lamb. I tried a piece, and it was nice and tender. As you might be able to tell, we aren't great at food reviews. After our meal, it was time for the cake trolley. The carrot cake was the best dish of the lunch. The German chocolate cake lacked chocolate, but this is the second time we have tried it in the country, and they both didn't have much chocolate. So maybe that's just how it's made down here. Although I was a bit harsh with my review, we still had an amazing time, and I would still say Roma is a must-do if it's your first time in the area. From Roma, we drive further into the heart of the city, where we drive by City Hall and the Old Fort.
I hear the drums echoing tonight. She is only whispers of some quiet conversation. She's coming in 12:30 flight. The moonlit wings reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation. I stopped an old man along the way, hoping to find some more forgotten words or ancient melodies. He turned to me as if to say, "Hurry, boy, it's waiting there for you."
We drive through some of the nicer areas of the city like Musgrave before ending up at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. The university has been ranked as one of the best colleges in Africa. Mom wanted to show us the Howard College library that overlooks the Durban harbor, but when we pulled into the parking lot, we were so preoccupied by all the monkeys. There were baby monkeys playing in the trees, big boys just lounging in the parking lot, and they really weren't bothered by us much.
I'm surprised you haven't told me too close yet. Miss Paul tells me, Julia, you're too close to that animal.
She gets way too close to animals, but I know nothing about these monkeys, so are they gonna hurt you? I don't know.
There's no monkeys at Kettering.
However, the monkeys are a nuisance to locals because they're scavengers and go through the rubbish bins and then litter everywhere. They also steal fruit and vegetables out of people's gardens. I don't really have too much to say about the college. It was just a nice scenic campus, so I'll just show some of the highlights. I did see that the tuition for 1 year is about 50,000 Rand, roughly 2,700 US dollars. We spent about an hour here, and half of that was spent just watching the monkeys in the parking lot. In the past, the harbor would have been in full view from here, but it looks like the shrubbery has grown to block most of the view. For fun, I brought along an older camera with me to South Africa and decided to use it on this day. I managed to get a nice photo of Paul with the Panasonic Lumix, but we did walk up to higher ground to get a better view of the harbor. I'll show that view in a second, but we passed by the defaced statue of King George V. King George was King of the UK from 1910 until his death in 1936. In our last video, we reviewed our hotel back in Umhlanga and mentioned the park across the street. And although it's just a small city park about the size of one block, we wanted to show it because it not only had an abundance of wildlife, mostly birds, but also we had our most sketchy interaction here with a couple of teenagers. We also saw the only WRX market. The Chris Saunders Park is directly across the street from the Protea Fire and Ice Hotel and has a nice little pond and fountain with a paved path wrapping around it. It's fenced in and has an updated restroom and is a really nice park to eat your lunch or just enjoy some green space in the middle of a city. You can also feed the fish, and typically there's security that patrols the park. I don't know too much about birds, so I can't name all the birds we saw, but I think this one is the Egyptian goose. If you can identify any of these birds, please leave the names down in the comments for us. We saw this bird at the beachfront and in the park throughout our trip, and because of its distinctive beak, I was easily able to research it as well. It's the Hadada ibis, native to sub-Saharan Africa and also the most common ibis in South Africa. The ibis is named for its distinctive 3 or 4 note call that sounds like this. Just kidding, it sounds like this. Another fun fact about the Hadada ibis is that it is non-migratory, so all year long you can see them out and about foraging for bugs near bodies of water. We'd really like to know what this unusual looking bird is, so if you know, comment below. There are stairs leading up to the other side of the park, and of course, we walked up to get a nice view. There is a nice little waterfall feature and a bridge leading across the pond, and we saw multiple people having full-on photo shoots here. But this is also where we were standing when we possibly almost got robbed. I'll tell that story while we watch this pelican search for some food. So we were standing at this bridge. I had the DSLR out and Paul was filming the front of the hotel when two teenagers came from the office buildings across the street heading towards us. I'll admit we had gotten a bit too comfortable and we weren't really trying to blend in as well as we should have been. Paul made eye contact with them and they started saying something at us. Assuming they were just asking for money, Paul said no, we don't have anything, and we started walking across the bridge. I'm in front, Paul trailing behind, and the teens are still 50-ish feet away. They continued towards us for some reason. Paul turned to confront them. Teenager 1 tried to tell Paul he was just wanting to take a picture with him, all while teenager number 2 was trying to circle behind Paul. But the commotion was enough to draw the attention of the other patrons in the park, and after Paul told them not to get close and he wasn't interested, they simply backed off and left. Paul had a backpack with some camera gear, and we think maybe they were just going to try to either grab it by force or pickpocket him. Or maybe they really just did want a picture with a random stranger in a park. But I saw multiple people in the park turn to go help out, which just proves how nice the people of South Africa really are. They are almost all looking out for each other, and on many occasions we saw people go out of their way to help others. The bad apples are the minority and have unfortunately given this country a bad reputation. We enjoyed our time in South Africa so much, and out of the 10 days we were in the country, this was the only bad experience we encountered. We have a few more videos on South Africa coming, so make sure to like this video to help the algorithm and subscribe to see the top-rated beaches near Durban, where we finally get to jump into the Indian Ocean and get slammed by some huge waves. Click the link above if you want to see the hotel we stayed at, and thanks so much for watching.